Three, two, one.
Hello and welcome to Doof Game Club, Doof Media's exploration of the joy of play. I'm Ruben Morehouse.
And I'm Elliot Diebold.
And Elliot, it's Mother's Day. To celebrate Mother's Day, we're talking about the mother of all indie games, Journey.
Oh, that was worth the build up, that
Yeah, that's
that
good,
intro.
right? Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Uh
wait,
so
wait, wait. I thought we were meant to be talking about Disco Elysium. That's all what all my notes are about.
yeah.
Explain.
So Disco Elysium's taking us a lot longer to get through than I think either of us expected. How long to beat is usually pretty reliable, but for this one it hasn't panned out that way yet. Um
Yes. And if we weren't enjoying it, we probably would just do the game club anyway, I think.
yeah,
But since I think we both are enjoying it, and like it's a mystery and it's got a lot of like narrative things going on, we really want to make sure we have enough time to like
yeah, do it
play
properly.
it properly and not rush through it.
Yeah, I could have just started trying to like boss my way through it if I really wanted to,
Yeah.
but I don't. Um
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we will be doing a Disco Elysium sort of catch up thing at the end, just like we did when we did Dark Souls over 2 months.
Hmm.
So stay tuned for that if you're interested. But for the rest of this, we're going to be talking about Journey by That Game Company.
Which
Um,
game company?
that Game
That game
Company.
company. Yep. Good
Um,
stuff.
yeah, which is like I've had the collection for That Game Company's games on PS3 for like 6 years, and I've been meaning to
For,
play it. So so glad this club finally forced me to.
for those of us who might not know, what other games have they created?
They had Flow and Flower.
Mm, okay.
So
I
I'm going
have
to add
not.
those to my list after this.
Well, that it would imply, Elliot, that you had quite a good time with Journey. Is that right?
Yes, I did. My quick summary of it would be this is a fantastic experience.
Mm. Should we dive into it?
Yes. Um. So just I guess while the credit music is playing in the background for our first one, it's weird to open with the credits, but that's what we're doing. Um. I just wanted to talk about like how this game just feels like it is. It only feels like it's meant to be this like little experience. Like it's not
Mm.
trying to be something
Yeah, I was about to say. So
like
wait,
an
now,
epic or anything. Oh, talking
now
over
where's the
myself.
shooting star?
It's not designed to be this massive epic or like a really genre defining thing. It's just a really solid 90-minute experience. Like it's like movie length. I think both of us finished it in almost exactly 90 minutes. Like, and that's what it
Yeah.
feels like to me. Um it's just meant to be the movie version of a game where you sit down, experience something for a couple of hours, and then walk away better for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's not meant to be a complex game. It's a game that's about delivering a specific experience to the player.
Yeah,
And it does pretty well at that, I think.
yeah,
I guess I kind of want to preface by saying, obviously we're both kind of in the games industry, and so even though neither of us had played Journey before, it would have been literally impossible for us to not have heard of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I have a lot of friends whose opinions I really used to respect about games, who said that this game was like their favorite game of all time. So expectations were very high going into this game, I think, um, and maybe that was a problem. I
yeah.
think that,
It can be like I've definitely had movies that I didn't enjoy because my hype levels were too high.
but I think for Journey especially, it's a game where if you have too much of a concept of what it's going to be, I actually think that does hamper the experience of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I I think I kind of already knew some of the things that were going on with Journey, and because of that, I found myself not as captured by it, I suppose.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense because I came in. I knew I had this rough idea in my head that it's like, oh, it's cooperative or
Mm.
something, or like you get paired with random people, but I didn't know what form that took at all.
I think we had a we had a back and forth over a messenger at
Yeah,
one point where I messaged you asking, so how much do you know about this game? And you said, I know one thing, and I also knew one thing, which is that you will bump into other players as you play. That's the only thing I knew about Journey going into it.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I was about the same then.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to dive into that. Because yeah, but to backtrack to what you said before, I really like how you phrased the way it's not meant to be complex. Like you think about other games, like a lot of other games want to take over your life for a month. Like we're talking about
Hmm.
Disco Elysium.
Yeah, totally.
Like Disco Elysium is like I want to be all you think about for a
It's a
month.
game that you can fall so deeply into.
Yeah, and like for more than one session. Like
Yeah.
it wants to own you for an extended period of time. And I'm having a lot of fun letting it do that. Whereas yeah, Journey it's very much you sit down, you play it, and then you can be done if you want.
Mm.
Obviously a lot of people come back, but you don't have to.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk about the community around this game a bit later. But you're
Mm.
right. I think there's some stuff in there like, it's got achievements and stuff, which almost feel out of place in this game, to be honest. But I guess
Yeah.
if there's a community that's coming back to the game, they want to kind of support it a bit. But yeah, you're right. It's not a game that you're necessarily meant to revisit.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, in an age where I feel like so many games and like there are game series I used to buy every game for, and I've sort of started to drop them because increasingly a lot of big budget games feel like they're designed to milk as much of my time as possible.
Yeah.
Like because just the way the industry works, I feel like there's a lot of if a game is going to cost $100, then it needs to have 100 hours of time in it or something. So there's like 20 minutes of a core experience and then 80 minutes of crap on top of it.
Mm.
Um, and I appreciate going back to a game that just didn't make me feel like that's what it was doing.
Yeah, totally. I think this is a game that you can really appreciate for being like, I we as a studio want to just have this game that does this specific thing.
Hmm.
Here it is. Enjoy it. Now we're off to do our next thing.
Yeah, especially because like my one word summary of this game would just be simplicity. Like I
Mm,
think just the art style, the story, the gameplay, everything is very much not aiming to be more than it needs to. Like
mm.
this game is all about taking a few core elements and just using that to tell the experience. It's not trying to be too much.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think one of the things that really works about this game is it's beautiful, right? It's a
Oh yeah.
beautiful game. Um,
So
it's
watching me send a friend request to the person I was with the entire time.
but I think we'll touch on that a bit later as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like genuinely, this game is very beautiful, right?
Mm.
Artistically and like atmospherically, I guess I would say it
Yeah.
just it it um gives me vibes of something like Breath of the Wild almost, right? Where
Yeah.
you can just feel this big vast world that is out there, this big vast and unlike Breath of the Wild, kind of lonely and isolated world.
Oh, I'd
A-
I'd argue loneliness was a big part of Breath of the Wild too.
sure, but
But
you
I
know,
see the difference, yeah.
despite the fact that there's actually not that much. You can feel the world, even though you feel like you could explore it in this game,
Yes.
even though you never really will, right?
There were a couple
Um,
of times where I started to be like, "Oh, I wonder what's not on the main path here," and the game sort of
it
literally
doesn't.
blew me back onto the path,
Yeah,
and it was like,
exactly.
"Okay."
It's
Um,
quite strictly linear,
yeah. But
from
when
my
I didn't
experience at
push on the
least.
prison bars, it felt a lot more open than it was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're seeing right now this segment where you kind of slide ski through a kind of
Mm.
sandy, deserted city, and it's like so majestic, and you feel like there's stories around every corner, but not ones that are necessarily relevant to you right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose like that's something that's woven in throughout all of Journey's stuff. Like if you look at the story of it, which I will admit to not completely understanding, but like this is just one small little journey. It's very hard not to use that word.
Mm.
That's yeah, but like this is just one small little voyage in what seems to be some sort of cycle. So it's like you know, again, that concept of like this isn't meant to be the grand mega scope, is both
Mm,
in the game and like in its, creation.
mm, yeah. Um, yeah. So obviously there are two major elements to Journey. One is the fact that there's a big, beautiful world, and the second is that in this world, in this lonely world, you'll occasionally come across other people,
Hmm.
also on their own journeys. Um,
Yeah. Well, sorry, before we get to that, I just want to talk about the art style a bit more.
mhm.
In fact, I'm just going to rewind. I just want to watch this again. That's too early.
Rewind. Beautiful. Look at
Um,
the sun shining on the sand. Like, fuck, that's beautiful.
yeah, like what I was really impressed by is the simplicity of the art style. Like, really, you never go somewhere that isn't sand or snow, which from like a programmer shadery perspective are actually just the same thing. Like you
Mhm.
don't they didn't I'd be willing to bet they didn't code the snow or the sand any different.
Mm.
They just changed the color. And like that was something that really jumped out to me when I finished is there's like 6 distinct levels. And despite them all essentially having the same props and the same like things like sand, they were so visually distinct because you have things
Mm.
like the snow. The sand always change hues when you go underground. It's just like it's a much darker palette. Um, you can sort of like, I'm pretty confident you could show me a screenshot of like just about any level, and I'd be able to tell you like where in the journey they are, and it's
That sounds like a fun mini game. I wish I'd prepared screenshots for this.
um, yeah, like it's just they get so much out of a very simple art style just by using color and music changes to really make each place feel unique, despite only having to
Mm.
like change the lighting.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It it's just stunning. It's just a stunning game.
Mm. I like the word you used before, atmosphere. Like you're right. Breath of the Wild would be one of the games I'd point to as my examples of the best ever creating a sense of atmosphere, and Journey would be right alongside it, I think.
Yeah, which obviously when you compare like the budgets and
Yeah,
scope of those games is a real testament to what that game company have done.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, sorry. So let's get into Journey's core gimmick, I guess.
Hmm.
I'll let the
Hmm.
audio for this one play out. No, why can't I go to the next slide? There it is.
I like how we get powered up by hanging out together.
So this was like
Really
just after I
encourages
met
teamwork.
my friendo. And this is when we sort of discovered, well, at least I discovered that we got powered up by standing next to each other. And that was the moment where I
I'm
really sort of
following you.
started to feel the cooperation element, just
Mm.
because it's so cool that like
How are they doing that?
you can't communicate or anything. We'll talk about that later, but just the game actually does incentivize you to cooperate. Like that's what the game wants you to do, and they found ways to mechanically help you do it, but in a way that didn't also break the game. Like it was hard to stay near each other for a lot of it because we couldn't communicate.
Mm. You and I had different experiences here, I guess, Elliot. Um, I guess we kind of got to rip this band-aid off a bit.
Yeah, do you want me to play
I
your slide of your cooperation when you met your
yeah,
friend?
let's yeah.
Oh, oh, for God's sake!
I didn't like having other people around in this game.
This guy. Am I right?
I
That will
really
still hopefully go away.
I'm trying to not just be contrarian about it because like obviously it feels good to fly in this game, and so having people around helps you fly more, which feels good. I get that, like legit. But I just found having other people around more annoying and a nuisance than majestic or like fulfilling in any way. And I think this is the reason why I ultimately didn't have a great experience with this game. I think.
Yeah, we're just
Um,
watching you fucking torment this poor person who just wants to
I,
hang out.
I wasn't tormenting them; they were tormenting me. I just wanted to sit down and let them go on their way, but they just refused. And this happened a few times. There were like a number of moments where I would enter an area and I would just kind of start looking around, but then there'll be someone already there, and they'd be like pointing out all the important things, or worse, kind of doing all the important things. It gave me this like major backseat gaming vibe, which I really hate. Like, I would come in and there'd be someone who's effectively 10 seconds ahead of me, and they would just kind of be like, "Oh, check this thing out over here. Oh, go over here next and do this thing." And it frustrated me to the extent that I just, after a certain point, refused to engage with anyone that I came across. Either tried to ignore them, tried to get away from them, just sat down and waited for them to move on. Like,
See, that's
yeah, it just drove me mental. I'll be honest.
because I guess I don't know. Like once I feel like because I watched most of your stream, and my memory is that like half the time the people doing stuff ahead of you didn't know you were there yet. Um, like, cause yeah, I don't know. I obviously I had the opposite. The person who I got paired with, I think had finished the game a bunch of times, and they really supported me rather than led me, which I liked. Like they only took the lead when I very clearly signaled to them that that's what I wanted them to do. So yeah, like I don't know. I find that so interesting, and I do feel like that's just going to be the fact that you seem to actively avoid engaging with what I kind of think is the point
The
of the
main
game.
mechanic of the game. Yeah, exactly. But I just found it so frustrating to engage with. So I think I came across like maybe 3 people on my journey, right?
Yeah.
First one was somebody who was, I think, just ahead of me and didn't know I was there. And so I was just kind of like, okay, fine. I'll let them go on ahead. That's fine. They can do their own thing. This is the second person who I was with effectively the entire time, and who, when I, or if it wasn't them, it was someone who acted the exact same as them. I'm not really able to tell them apart, who was just so frustrating to be around. Like, it was like, I mean, I can't read anything into this person's motivations or anything, right? Obviously, but I felt like I was trying to read a book and just having a small child reading over my shoulder and occasionally just shouting things into my ear. And I'm just like, or like reading the page in front of me into my ear, and like things that are just so frustrating.
Yeah, but like I my feeling watching you with that is like I agree that's what it felt like, but also like to continue the metaphor, you were doing that on like a first date. Like you'd gone out to meet with someone, gone to an event together, and then you were sitting in the corner trying to read your book. Like
Sure.
like I think some of the pestering was them just trying to get you to engage with them. Which I guess, you know, maybe they should have had less persistence in that regard. But
Yeah, I don't know.
like I'm just picturing this poor other person on the like my read on it was this other person on the line like sort of comes in, sees you, and something I didn't learn till later is the pattern on your cloak identifies you as somebody who hasn't beaten the game before.
Oh, interesting.
So they would have
Okay.
like seen you, probably been like, "Oh, there's like a newbie, I can help them," and then you just fucking ignored them, and they're probably like, "Let me help you."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was being too much of a Grinch about it. But I just like, there were enough times where I felt like my experience of the game was just actively being hampered. We're about to come up to one here, actually. Like, there's this stealth area, and after a certain point, if you fail the stealth here, these sandworms just go away, right? And so this player that I'm with just ran off in front and activated every single worm, and then I just didn't have that stealth section. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
was just kind of like, oh, okay. And this was one of the points where I was just kind of like, and there's another one coming up where there's a bit where you have to kind of climb up a tower and you read a thing, and that raises the level of like the gravity juice in the tower or whatever.
yeah.
And as soon as I walked into this chamber, this person activated the first one, and I was just like, oh, okay, like, you know, part of the game has just been taken away from me and I can't really do anything about it except sit here and wait for them to move on, or alternately have to rush ahead to do it really quickly myself, which again is not something I want to necessarily do. So it just it led to kind of a frustrating experience for me for about 60% of the game.
I do definitely agree that there's a certain amount of potluck in compatibility with the person you get paired with. Like, I got lucky. I had somebody who clearly identified me as a newbie very early on and went out of their way to help me, but not like, they were teaching me to fish, not giving me a fish.
Yeah.
And that was lucky. If I'd ended up with somebody who did just kind of was too keen to show me what to do, that would have probably been a little frustrating. But that's it. I
Yeah.
just find this interesting because usually I feel like I'm the one on your end of things who just didn't connect with what a game was doing and is confused why everyone likes it. So I've never been on this side before.
Especially a game that's like so universally beloved, and I just kind of had a bad experience with it. And it's the kind of game where like I could kind of go back and try it again, but obviously that's never going to recapture it, right?
No,
like there's just no world in which I can have a good experience with it ever again to an extent.
Yeah, I think
And
your
that's so
first run
sad.
is it. And then the others are like you taking on more of a mentorship role, I assume. I think
Yeah.
I'm curious because this game has an offline mode. Like you can play it so that you're not online.
Mm.
What was the thinking behind your decision not to turn to that?
I mean, the whole way through, I was thinking, I can't just not engage with what is the core part of this game, right? I have to kind of give it more of a chance, and it just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Wobbo in the chat brings up a really good point. Like, was that bad experience something that was just like, do you think it was just the mood and the time, when you were playing, or
Yeah,
do you think it
I
was a more
don't.
generic
I
thing?
don't think I went into it wanting to have a bad time with it. And I think the first person that I came across, I kind of had a much better time where they were just kind of doing their own exploration and I was doing my own. And it felt like we were just kind of ships passing in the night in what I felt a very kind of rewarding and satisfying way. But then when I got to this point where I had this other player, I just was they just really ground me down.
Yeah, I suppose I feel like that's the key right there, as you sort of said you liked or even wanted that ships in the night, like just passing by each other, whereas I very much
Yeah.
immediately found someone and embraced like pairing together and being cooperative. And I suppose that might be the difference in like approaching the cooperation that made it work or not work.
Yeah. I I don't want to be critical of the game itself because I think the game does what it sets out to do, right? Like this isn't a game where it's like if there were elements where it was like a cooperative puzzle platformer or something, right? Where we had to be like, okay, now you go flick that switch and I go through here. Like that's just not what this game is,
No.
right? But those are things that I would have felt would have been like that would have felt like in that game, I would want to meet somebody and work together with them because in that game, that's what the game kind of wants you to do. But this game to me is a game where what I was getting from it, the things I was enjoying the most, were just kind of enjoying the ambience of the game and stuff like that. And having another person around kind of actively detracted from that to me rather than enhanced it.
Yeah, okay. So that's interesting because, like, for me, and I'm sure people have probably sort of put this together who follow the club, like, I really enjoy games where I'm just exploring a space and like prodding stuff with tools to see what it does. Like that's why I love like 3D platformers because you run around levels and poke stuff, jump around them, see what happens. And I just really enjoyed the experience of basically doing that with someone, like just entering a level, seeing a room, and like seeing some new element and being like, I'm gonna bong at it and see what happens.
See, I enjoyed doing that as well, but I feel like that was hampered by having other people around rather than, improved. See, you can see here, I've just entered this room. That guy's bonging off to the left, and I'm kind of like, okay, I guess I have to go to the left. I kind of felt like I was just following even more so, I was just following a path that was set for me, and I didn't really have anything else to do. And I was like, okay, instead of doing that, I'm going to go explore a bit more and see what happens. Oh, cool, there's this cool stuff over here. But then, they activated it, and I was like, oh, okay, like, the gameplay is just kind of being done for me now. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to not just be down on it because I think this game does so many cool things. And like, I enjoyed the atmosphere of this game so much. And I enjoyed the creatures that I was coming across and bonging them and all that stuff. But some of these parts were just like, oh, okay, I guess I don't get to have this experience.
Yeah. I suppose as somebody who feels like they fell into the trap of like with a few games in the game club, especially Dark Souls early on, um, I feel like I was trying to force it to play the way I wanted it to play and avoiding the way it
Mm,
wanted it to. Like, I wonder if just engaging
mm.
with this person more would have made the experience
Would have,
better.
yeah, maybe I was being too stubborn at this
Yeah,
point.
because I have definitely,
Entirely possible.
yeah, like that is usually me in this conversation. So that's just it's
Yeah.
just sort of what I'm thinking could be the case.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
And
Anyway,
definitely, at least for me, that often comes into a mixture of expectations coming into the game, and then also definitely my mood. I think my mindset coming into like back in Dark Souls, my mindset coming into Dark Souls was a really toxic one, and took me ages to get
mm,
over it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
moving on to the next snippet.
hmm
There it is. So this is the one where
Come on, we gotta catch it and keep it. It's our new pet.
I really started communicating with my partner.
It's ridiculously fun to communicate via this one emote.
God, you can actually hear that. So this was the day before I got really sick, and you can actually hear it in my voice listening to that clip. But I was also saying in there, it was just ridiculously fun when I had a partner to just communicate via this one bong. Like that was all we had. Like there's no voice chat. I didn't even know their name. All we can do is like signal each other through movements and tactical bonging.
Yeah.
And I found that very, very fun.
Yeah. The bong in this game felt so finely tuned, like so versatile in the sense of,
Yeah, because you could
you know,
charge it.
yeah, and like the fact that it's your only means of interaction also kind of naturally tends itself towards players kind of forcing to alert each other when they find something that they think is interesting. Because if I find something I think is interesting, my first thought is, oh, let me bong it and see what happens, which not only interacts with it, but also kind of pings to the other player, hey, check this thing out,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's such a cool, versatile method of interaction that also facilitates communication and like notification so well. Yeah, I think it was very. I really liked bonging stuff, and I really liked finding creatures and bonging them. Like I felt that was great. Just not other player creatures, AI creatures. Yes.
Yeah, like, and because I just really enjoy. I think that limit on the communication is part of what makes this such a unique and engaging experience. Because if it was voice chat and if I knew their name or something, it'd be so much easier to just have it blend into everything else. Whereas, kind of forcing yourself to, just bong at each other. It really forces you to focus on engaging with each other in a unique way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's been a couple of Nintendo games and stuff I've played where you have like a handful of emotes you can use, and that it's a
Mm.
similar vibe, but there's something next level about there literally just being one emote.
Well, it's so like it kind of comes back to the core identity of this game being kind of minimalist and elegant, right? Like, here's your one tool to interact. Here's this big empty space where you can always see the place you're going towards, this mountain constantly. Like, everything's stripped down to just the the most simple elements of the game, of the journey, of all of these things, but it just is implemented in such a beautiful and compelling way that it's great. Like the bong sounds nice to listen to. You
Yeah.
feel like you're connecting to the world when you do it. It all just like it feels very cohesive. Whoa, what's going on right now?
I don't fully understand how it happened, but we unlocked some sort of scarf enlargement thing up there
Cool.
somehow. Um, Yeah, like I think that simplicity comes into it again. Like obviously the limited communication ties into the simplicity, and like we also talked about. There's like no, you've got a stick to move the camera, stick to move the character, and then there are about three different buttons for jump for me, and the bong button. Like that's it. It's like less
Yeah,
controls than Fall Guys.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think yeah, just that simplicity and everything is just really such an asset to getting you to use the tools that you have in really creative ways.
Mm,
It's that
yeah.
limitation breeds creativity saying.
Yeah, I wonder how much because obviously there's like that's the things that you can do, but the world is kind of shepherding you and steering you at the same time. And I think there's obviously a lot of thought that went into things like, okay, now let's have the player slide here, so we make sure they're kind of sliding in the right direction,
Mm,
and having the game so elegantly funnel you to where it wants you to go. I think that's the real like there's a lot of technical skill in that, and it's implemented incredibly well in this game.
yeah. Um. God, yeah. I'm just enjoying rewatch. I'm mad that I can never play this game for the first time again. It's one of those games where I finished it and I'm like, it's not going to be
Mm,
the same the second time.
yeah,
Um.
yeah.
Because it's actually our next slide is just about how great the community is.
Hmm.
So what we've got here, this is right when I first met my traveling partner, and you can sort of see from how decorated their code is. They're clearly an experienced player. They've clocked
Oh,
onto the
is that
fact, yeah.
that's what it is? Okay.
I didn't learn this till afterwards. People in chat were telling me, which actually is another thing. Like I had about 7 people watching me play this just because they love Journey. Like, I get that. I want to vicariously see someone play this for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's actually a more pure experience seeing someone else's first experience of it than having a third or fourth
Yeah.
experience of it yourself, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Like I
that's the part you want
rather
to
than
see.
play this game again, I'm more inclined to try and find someone playing it for the first time on Twitch.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like you can see this person, they're sort of slowly teaching me that bonging those things will like affect them.
Mm,
Like
mm.
just sort of prodding it, and then they start
And
letting me take the lead.
celebrating, yeah.
Like it was just yeah, this person just sort of came in and just really did good. Like you can see that as I'm fucking with this sand, not realizing it's nothing, they're just sitting there letting me be an idiot. Um, it's yeah, it was just so cool to have someone come in and be such a good mentor like that.
Mm.
Especially I was playing on PS3. Like, why did I find someone right at the start of the first level on PS3? What are we? That's insane that somebody else is still playing it. Because
Mm.
I looked it up. It's not crossplay. Like
Oh, wow.
this is not somebody on PC.
Yeah. Interesting.
Um, so yeah, I was surprised I got anyone at all, let alone somebody who was so great and so like I found them 10 seconds into this level, which I think is the first place you can find someone.
I think so.
Um,
That's it. That's fascinating.
yeah,
I mean, I guess that's kind of what you do sometimes when you're a Journey fan. You just sit at the start of this level hoping that you'll find someone else. It's so like it's it's so pure of and wholesome of an experience. I kind of love it.
yeah, I loved this game so much. I had a fantastic 90 minutes.
Mm.
So where are they leading me now? I don't even remember. Oh, this is where they showed me where a secret was. That was nice.
um, yeah, I had the same experience where I started playing and two or three people just jumped in the Twitch stream being like, "Oh, is this your first time playing Journey?" Blah blah blah. Like it, the, and that was very wholesome. I think they were hopefully enjoyed antagonistic relationship with the game at times, but yeah,
yours was a
clearly
very
the community.
yours was a very different experience, which has value.
Mhm. Clearly the community and it's obvious why you just kind of want to see people experiencing this game and get that opportunity to relive it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, hopefully some of those people will maybe see this game club because I kept plugging it during my stream, and I hope I didn't sound like a broken record, but I was like, I really wanted them to come because I wanted to see them again and talk about it, like as somebody who'd finished it.
Yeah, people that you just kind of met on the crossroads, of course.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
this game is all about, right?
Yeah. And then I really have a point for this one. I just really want to share this moment, and I'm gonna leave the audio on for this one, so I'll shut up for a good 30 seconds.
Wait, what happened to our scarves?
I just will say I had been with this person for the entire game. It was just my one partner the whole time.
Oh my god! Oh my god! They drew a heart!
So yeah, that was our sort of final moment together.
That's so...
That's so wholesome.
Yeah,
Fuck.
like I genuinely, yeah, somebody in the chat was like, that teared me up, but it was like, honestly, I wasn't far off myself. Like that was like that is just the pinnacle of the game for me. Like that's always the bit I'd show people if I was telling them about my experience. Like yeah, it was such a nice moment. And in fact, right
Very
after we walked through the gate together, we became friends. So I got proof. Because I love how the game, you're anonymous as you play it, and then at the end it tells you who you were with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to find that person on PlayStation. I just sent them a friend message that was like Journey Friends, and they accepted it within like 10 minutes. It was a very nice
That's
feeling.
that's so heartwarming. I am so sad that I didn't get to have that experience. Oh well, that's life, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I guess as I said, I've been in your shoes more often than not on this game club, so I get it.
Well, is there anything else we have to touch on for Journey?
Not really. We're gonna open up to Q&As. I don't think this is. I think like there's not many people here today, and I apologize for that with all the fucking rescheduling and everything. It's been between me being sick last week and then just the insane amount of I've had weird stuff going on at work. I won't get into, but suffice to say, it's been a hell of a week. So sorry for how messy this club ended up being, and thanks to those who did come.
But happy Game Club anniversary, Elliot.
Yeah, this was our 13th game club. So this time last year, we were talking about Hollow Knight.
Yeah,
That's
good
crazy.
times.
And when Silksong comes out in 20 years, we'll get to cover that.
20 years, more like 60, Elliot. It's never going to come out, that game, for fuck's sake. I saw a tweet. Oh my God. I saw the meanest tweet I've ever seen. Somebody just randomly tweeted, oh, I wasn't expecting Silksong news today, but there you go. And I was like, holy fuck, Silksong news. But no, they were just fucking being a jerk. I got so hyped. I was like, Silksong news. And no, there was nothing. Of course, there was nothing.
Yeah, God, it feels like they maybe announced it too early, or I don't know. Because like I hear so much about Elden Ring. I think it is that George R.R. Martin combining with the people who make Dark Souls thing, and there's like whole memes because nothing's been announced about it, and it's like I think they just announced that they were working on it way too early.
But you know, if you get hype about a game you're working on, why not announce it?
Yeah. It might be we need to be better at managing consumer expectations because can't find entitlement anywhere quite like in the gaming community.
True.
So we got a question from Alexandra. What do you feel are the core themes of Journey?
I guess this should tie into something that we never really touched on, which is the quote-unquote story of the game, right?
Yeah.
Because my interpretation of the story is you're effectively kind of uncovering the bones of this civilization of big white people, whereas you're a little red person. And it feels like the narrative that is being delivered to you through these kind of murals is the story of a civilization that, you know, grew and started kind of pillaging the land more and more before eventually having gotten to a point where it essentially out consumeristed itself
Mm.
and collapsed under the weight of all of that. So to me, that story is kind of preaching this idea of having a stronger connection to the world around you and to nature, and then that's kind of backed up by the fact that you're going on this journey through the natural world, and you kind of meet and make a connection with someone else who's also on this journey of kind of connecting to the world. So I feel like the theme of like connection and awe of the natural landscape, I
Yeah.
guess, is what really stands out to me about it.
Yeah, especially because I got the impression that the ribbon creatures and stuff were, well, they were the only life that we saw, right? Apart from the big evil mean things.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it was very much this sense of like, yeah, you bong, you make noise to literally connect with the, the natural world and to release them and stuff. Yeah. It felt post-apocalyptic to me too. I don't quite understand where the whole cyclical nature of, because something that happens is when you reach the summit and you walk into the light, you then become a shooting star and sort of go back. And like I got the impression that the repetition of the journey was built into the story.
Yes.
And I haven't
Or
really figured out how that.
journey, I guess.
Yeah, I just haven't figured out how
Mm.
that fits in thematically or to anything. Um,
Yeah, me neither. I mean, there's also this moment where at the end of the game you kind of break through this storm and you emerge above the storm, and everything suddenly becomes like a veil is lifting. The things that were monstrous before become back to their original forms. And for this brief moment, you see the world as a kind of utopia before, you know, the cycle begins anew. And I also don't feel like I quite have an understanding of how that plugs into what the game is trying to say. Maybe it doesn't necessarily need to. Maybe it's just a state of reaching,
yeah,
I don't know, like
it fits
some
into
kind
the it fits into the journey itself because it's such a
yeah,
triumphant moment. Like you that's the moment where you're like, oh, I've beaten the game and this is my bloody like victory lap. Um,
yeah, exactly.
so it definitely fits
I
into the
climbed
game.
the mountain.
Yeah.
Worth pointing out the theme of games for the game club, and maybe just games in general, being obsessed with climbing mountains.
There have been a few, haven't there?
What is it about indie games and climbing mountains that, I guess it's just a very easy to grok metaphor of like overcoming an obstacle. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
You're right.
because
Yeah,
this is our third,
because we had
obviously,
Celeste
Celeste
getting
getting
over it.
over it, Journey, mountaineering games. Are there any others that I'm missing? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean,
But
Hollow Knight was a bit the opposite. You went down underground.
and that's why Hollow Knight was so revolutionary for indie games, I think, because instead of going upwards, you went downwards, which nobody had ever done it before. So,
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more room to apply literary analysis to Journey than I really have. Like, I would need to play through it, I feel like, another 2 or 3 times before
mm,
I fully understood everything it was doing. Like, something Ruben picked up in his playthrough that I did not notice is that the evil Leviathan things were turning into the nice ribbon Leviathan things.
yeah,
That I had not made that connection. So there's like 100 details like that where, yeah, I'd almost need to think about those more and experience them again to really cohesively think about what the story's doing.
yeah. But obviously, it's intentionally open ended to an extent. So I
Mm.
think it lets you apply your own kind of, you know, every person has their own obstacles. Every person has their own journey that they're going on. And so
Yeah,
having a game that is a journey at its most bare complexities allows anyone to relate to it in a very meaningful way, which I think is part of what the game is trying to do. So, we could analyze it forever, and it maybe is a game that is more of a tool to reflect upon one's own journeys than it is telling an explicit story about some specific journey.
yeah, because the story is very intentionally unobtrusive. Like, the reason we've
Yes.
both played the game and still don't fully understand it and have a lot of questions is because the game almost goes out of its way to not force you to engage with the story because the point is the journey, not the
Yeah.
destination.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go without saying that.
And with that, let's wrap it up. Uh,
Yes.
I
Sorry, you go.
the theme of this game is it's about the friends you make along the way. That's what this game is trying to say, and it does it well. And let's wrap it up in a bow.
Yes, because that's sort of everything we had to say about Journey, I guess. We will be back next month to talk about Disco Elysium on the 5th of June. And yeah, I mean, should we talk about where we're at? Do a bit of a check-in. Where are you up to first, Ruben?
I finished day 1, and I'm starting to internalize some racism. That's where my character's at.
Yeah, I hit a big roadblock on day 2 because I tried every other way to get past that dude that didn't involve becoming a racist, and eventually at the end of day 2 I had to just internalize that thought, and then I got rid of it immediately once I was done.
Yeah, I feel like I've betrayed my main man Kim, but you know, whatever.
I accidentally upset Kim because I was trying to get information out of the racist lorry driver guy.
Yes. Oh yeah, I did that too.
And so I let him
I was
slide
like trying
on
to
a
buddy
few
up
things.
to him a bit, right?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
We might have a special guest for this episode of Disco Elysium as well, just as an aside. But yeah, okay. So I'm sort of at the end of day 2. I've probably got about another half hour of day 2 gameplay, depending on how slow this conversation I'm about to enter is. I won't go into the details because I'm ahead of you, Ruben. But I mean, so far this is the sort of game I don't feel like I should enjoy. Like I would never have played this by choice. And I'm really enjoying it. Like this is what I want a game club to be, like making me play games I don't usually play and actually finding like a lot of value in them. Like the opposite of Dark Souls. It took a while to break me in though. Like I'll be talking about this again more next month, but like I think I really struggled to get into it at first because it was so different to what I usually play through. But once I kind of was broken by it, it tamed me, and then it went better.
Yeah. I think that'll be very interesting to dive into. This game is so, like, this is the closest I've come to seeing a game which really takes the concept of an open world kind of, but being also narrative based, and nails it so well. You know, like it feels so much under my own control that I'm kind of half expecting that I actually just will end the game having not solved the mystery at all. And I don't know, like, or I'm kind of, my secret fear is that I'll get to day 7 and then Kim will be like, oh, why don't we go here and get this pivotal clue? And I'll be like, oh, okay, the game kind of needs to hold my hand to get me to the end.
Oh God, see, there's so much I want to talk about on that already, but I can't. Even though I'm only in day 2, I have stuff to comment on that. It's yeah, it'll be interesting to compare actually, because a big question I have moving forward in the game at this point is there are so many what feel like side threads and like bullshit that doesn't feel like it's relevant. And I wonder if the game is scripted in such a way that it can all become relevant. Like, so you meet the wife of that cryptozoologist early on in the first day, and I've really tried to engage with her and like the mission of finding her husband. And part of me kind of hopes that it's like the game is designed in such a way that will become relevant to the conspiracy because I'm making it a part of
engaging with it. Yeah.
Whereas if I didn't engage with it, then like maybe it gets a throwaway mention or something, but it's like, you know, the game is sort of tracking what threads you've engaged with and pushing them more to the fore.
Yeah. I don't know. Or the fact that it's, you know, the threads that are closer to your home base are the ones that are more likely to become relevant in the story. And so it will kind of naturally tend to do that anyway. I don't know. We'll have to see. Again, we can't kind of talk about this without spoilers, which is annoying, but we'll, it's just a game that prompts so much thought in such a satisfying way. I can't wait to dive into it more next month.
Yeah, I've gotten so much more into it than I ever thought I would. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely very lost when it comes to like a lot of what the story is doing. Like there are so many nations and political groups and stuff. And they're definitely all still a bit hazy in my mind, but the writing's just so damn good. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Maybe next month we'll be saying, "Oh, we're really disappointed by how it hasn't all come back together," but we'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah.
My level of faith in this game is very, very high at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not expecting to be disappointed.
All right. Well,
Cool. But yeah, so we'll be back on the 5th of June to talk about Disco Elysium.
Cool.
See you all in a month.
All right. See you then.